Okay. Hi, everyone. Welcome to week 5 of the Ask Me Anything. I'm excited to answer all of your questions. And I have my team. They've gone through all of the different links, and I'm going to answer them now. And if you put a question up during the week or email it to our team and it's not on this presentation, email us again and we will try to include it for next week. We're doing our best here. This is all free and it's all for the people. So don't be too critical for us. We're here to help. And thanks. Today I'm recording from sunny Venice, Italy. Um, I'm sacrificing my vacation time to be here, to share information about tax and operational business questions, and it is my pleasure. So, without any further ado, let me share my screen and let's get to some of these questions. Long question. Question number 1. I'm a U.S. non-resident with an LLC, but have U.S. physical address that had a lease agreement under the LLC and utility bill under the lessor's name. Will that consider me engaged in a trade or business in the U.S. and will I have to pay U.S. taxes? If yes, what about my country taxes? Will that depend on the treaty or will I have to pay double? Well, this gets into what is the definition of a U.S. trade or business? And depending, how does that definition interpreted for the purpose of paying taxes? The IRS actually has a great explanation on their website. I'm gonna pop it over here. I'll leave my face, make it a little smaller, put myself in the lower third, lower fourth over here. What is a U.S. trade or business? IRS.gov. This is an easy way. We can go into the tax code. We can get a lot of details, but for the purpose of this, the IRS has a definition on their website, which is a great reference. The term trade or business generally includes any activity carried on for the production of income from selling goods or performing services. It's not limited to integrating, aggregating assets, activities, or goodwill that compromise business for purpose certain other provisions of the revenue code. Activities producing or distributing goods, performing or services, which is income defined, is derived, do not lose their identity as trades or businesses merely because they're carried on within a larger framework, blah, blah, blah. So, does having a mailing address allow you to facilitate providing a service? Do you go there to that address and do work? If no, then I would say you do not have a U.S. trade or business. If you do not use that address to store and package goods that you're selling with your e-commerce store, then no, I would say you do not have a U.S. trade or business and you would not have to pay taxes in the U.S. If you are doing those things, then the income earned from those activities specifically would be subject to tax in the U.S. And depending on if there's a tax treaty or not, potentially in your home country. That's why it's important to use the proper company. If you are packaging, let's say you're packaging goods and you're coming there and doing work in the US constantly, then maybe an LLC is not the best idea. Probably a corporation is a better choice because that generally doesn't flow through to your home country and wouldn't be taxed in your home country. That's why big multinational companies use corporations as their structure of choice when expanding into new jurisdictions. So that's the answer there. I think that's a helpful answer. You might have to pay double though if you do it the wrong way. That's why it's important to, if you're making a lot of money and you're doing a lot of business, it's important to probably get specific advice into your situation and not just rely on a one sentence free answer from me to scale your business. If you're just getting started, you're probably fine. And I probably answered your question okay. But if you are doing these things and you are in the US, you want to expand and do stuff in the US, then it's important to do it the right way, like from the get-go. Question number 2. 5 seconds. Question number 2. I'm a US non-resident with an LLC. Regarding Form 5472, I forgot to file this year. I'm wondering if waiting until next year to file with the US unaware, but there's been once where I didn't file and will avoid the penalty. The only reportable was when money paid to the company to form, and another one that offers EIN service that I bought. I don't even have a bank account in the LLC or any assets. So, since the Form 5472 is only required if you have reportable transactions, it's not definitely required by everyone. I understand that by the nature of the activity of paying to start a company, you technically were required to file. I don't believe that the intention of the IRS when they implemented this into law was to force struggling like businesses that are just getting started to pay them $25,000 for not filing this form. I really don't think this was the intention of the form. So I believe that if you're not filing the first year and you just start filing correctly, I don't think you'll have an issue. Like I said, this really is, I really don't think this is the intent for the IRS to struggle like crush startup businesses with this compliance, especially because you have no US bank account. I really think that it's a really low risk to not file the first year. And then now that you know about it, file in the next year's coming. Hopefully you're making a lot of money doing whatever you're doing, and you don't have to it's like you can pay someone to do it for you. Hopefully that's the case. If you're interested in learning how to do this, I do have a course that I update each year. Fortunately for me, the code hasn't changed, so I haven't had to update it too much last year. But I have a course and I have a ton of content about it. So if you're interested in learning how to do it yourself, for example, if you haven't made any money, then there's an option. Question 3. I'm a non-US resident with an LLC. Do I need to file income tax returns as a US non-resident disregarded entity LLC business? If yes, do I need an ITIN? And is the 1099 an example of them? Well, this question is really, I look at it as, when do I have to file 1040 NR if I have an LLC? We just talked about in the last question, if you have an LLC and you're the only owner of the LLC, disregarded, then the LLC files Form 5472. As a person files a 1040 or a 1040 NR. The NR is non-resident. There's other forms, so those are the big two we're talking about here. You only have to file the 1040 NR if you have U.S. source income connected with effectively connected U.S. trade or business or whatever. And you can always look it up. Actually, honestly, I don't want to like take away my business, but who has to file Form 1040 NR instructions, whatever. So if you look at the instructions, they have a line that's going to be who must file. You must file 1040 NR. This is from the IRS website. If 1, you were a non-resident alien engaged in a trade or business during 2021, that's the big one. And number 2, if you had withholdable payments. There's a lot of stuff that's really rare that I like. For example, I've been doing this for over 15 years in a public setting for many, many clients, and I just haven't come across this ever. I don't even really want to go into it, but I will, because I don't remember the answers. It's at the bottom of the form. There's a chart, I believe. No. Yeah. Who must? Death. I was looking up death taxes, guys. I'm not weird. Who must file? Table A. There it is. There's a table. Who must file if you were non-resident engaged in trade or business, even if you had no income, you have no U.S. source income, or your income is exempt from tax. Okay, that's fine. If you were non-resident alien engaged in trade or business and you received income from U.S. sources, reportable NEC, like dividends, and not all taxes was withheld. So I had a call with a guy the other day who gets a brokerage statement, and on the brokerage statements, he still registered as a U.S. person even though he left. He's going to have dividend income that didn't have withholding, so he's going to have to file 1040 NR and pay his 30% tax on that. And then there's all these weird special taxes and Social Security stuff, so I don't care about that. Great question. So my guy, how is it Marçal? Because I don't know how to say that. Marçal? Yes, Marçal. Okay, cool. Is that Portuguese? Are you like Brazilian? No? Catalan from Spain. Cool. Hi, James. The last AMA, you said there's no sales taxes for digital products. I have a foreign-owned disregard entity in LLC in New Mexico, 0 physical presence, 0 employees. In tax jar, they say if you have an economic nexus in the U.S., having U.S. customers, you have to apply sales tax when you surpass a threshold or 200 transactions. There's no, yes, because, sir, tax jar is talking about is talking about products almost exclusively. That's really what they're collecting sales taxes on. And they're getting run out of business by automation and big, they're not getting run out of business, but for independent websites, it's really what TaxJar is for. So economic nexus does refer to, well, it's different for every state, but let's pop it up and look. Because TaxJar, I love their websites, and I tell everyone to come here and read it. State by state economic nexus laws. Look at, this is the big key. Retailers, we're talking about retailers in this one. This is the old case. Retailers used to have nexus, but because of Quill versus North Dakota, again in like 2018, no, that was the old rule. This is South Dakota and Wayfair, which is crazy that the Dakotas are determining all of the sales tax laws all over the country. Small little states. Well, they're not small in size, but they're small in population. Now, not only does physical presence, but economic presence. And this is generally going to be for, again, for retail. So great question. So, if maybe you have economic nexus if you're selling digital products to people in a certain state, and maybe you have economic nexus. That doesn't mean that what you're selling is subject to sales taxes. Give me a second. I think I'm breaking up. Let me repeat myself. So the question is, there's no sales tax on digital products. Do economic nexus thresholds still apply? So the answer is economic nexus thresholds, I suppose they still apply based on sales to people in the state. However, your sales, even if you pass economic nexus thresholds, it does not mean that what you're selling is subject to sales taxes. So maybe you would technically be required to register and report that you had $100,000 of sales, but none of it's subject to sales taxes. I don't think, if you don't do that, the states have nothing to come after anyway. So if you're selling digital products, I really wouldn't worry about it. I would not, for this reason, if you're selling digital products that are very successful, I would not include hats or shirts or any swag with what you're selling, because that would subject you to sales taxes and make it messy. So that's a good question. So yeah, the economic nexus laws, I think they would still apply, but you still wouldn't be subject to sales taxes. Are they legal? What do they mean for online sellers? Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, notice report laws. This is not I'm not like, there's 50 states. I'm not an expert in this, but I know enough about it to talk about it pretty confidently. But again, there's 50 states, and I don't know. Look, if they have the economic nexus laws by state, so it's based on calendar year sales. These are all great links, and that's why I say go to TaxJar. If you sell $100,000 of stuff into the state, that's great. Good for you. And if you let's see if they have something about services. You got the whole, this is a Stripe bought TaxJar. Good for them. Amazing. That's why that was not always the case. I wonder now we're doing it. How much did Stripe pay for TaxJar? This is April from last year. Amazing. Multi-million-dollar deal. Irish Times. Now this is really interesting, right? That's really cool. And that happened last year, and I didn't even know about it. That's crazy. I want to know how much they paid for it. Anyone know? I'm getting derailed. Who bought TaxJar? Stripe. That's a great play for Stripe. It's a no-brainer. 179 million. No, wait, that's their. Oh, okay. So their evaluation was 179. Stripe is valued at 95 billion. Okay. So they're valued at 190. So they paid 200 million for a software company. The moral of today's story: start a software company that provides a service everyone needs. Okay. Whatever. So I think that answers your question, right, Marcel? Like, I think so. Yes, kind of lines. So yeah, exactly. It's not 200 transactions is not much, especially if you're selling low ticket stuff. But yeah, no sales taxes on software as a service. especially with, maybe in some states, so, which states pay sales taxes on software as a service? Stupid SaaS. Let's see if there's a, let's see if we have a little chart here for someone who did the work for us already. And then we can verify it. Like, I like to use this as a starting point, and then we read the laws about it. No. This is a good article. I'm not gonna go through every state. It's gonna be mostly no. Generally requires sales tax on. So it's, so maybe, and so it's California, no, big state. That's a big one. Let's look at maybe. This week I get a bunch of maybes. Reduced rate. Florida does not. They don't address it directly. I don't care. This is really cool. This is great. Tax valet. Thanks, guys. Hawaii does not. Once you reach 1 million, worry about it. Yeah, do it. Once you reach 1 million, become a client. Let's do it. Love to work with you. Okay, so great. I'm gonna go back to this. This was fun. I'm a U.S. non-resident with an LLC. How is the form 1099, 1040 NR, and 5472 filed? So the quick answer is you need an ITIN to do a 1040 NR. I don't know if I answered that in the other video. You do not need an ITIN for 5472. And I'm going to answer this in its own question. Who needs to file 1090 form 1099, or when does a non-resident LLC need to file 1040 and when does a foreign-owned LLC need to file form 1099? So let's look at this one. This is going to be great. Form 1099 instructions, who must file. So this is really a good question. I haven't answered in a while. A 1090, first, what is Form 1099? Form 1099 miscellaneous, or NEC, is a form that's filed when you pay more than $600 to someone for something in the US, but it has to be for a US person. So let's read about it a little bit. There's the MISC and the NEC, and I'm going to talk about the differences as well. And we can make this a couple different videos, but file form 1099 is for each person you pay during the year. And this is for a US trade or business. That's how I look at it and understand it. Employer's tax guide. I'm going to pop that up in the side. And that one, that's interesting. Okay. So if you pay during the year, at least $600 in rents, prizes, other income, generally cash paid to a partnership or a state on a notional principal contract, payments to an attorney, or fishing boat proceeds. In my business, I get very few 1099s. I do get some. Correction. We're gonna open a couple of these. Ooh, I found this one too. So let's look at the PDF print version. I like these better. Okay, so over here. Okay, they reference the code. There's a lot of assumptions in these. The assumptions are mostly that you're a US taxpayer. And that's really the issue I have with a lot of this is that if you're not a US taxpayer, you don't have to comply with Form 1099 MISC. But let's find that written, because I've seen that a number of times, and I think and I really want to have it in here. So section 6071C, amazing. Okay, report on Form 1099 only when payments are made in the course of your trade or business. The idea is that we don't have a US trade or business. Your personal payments not reportable. You're engaged in a trade or business if you operate for a gain or profit. So if you're not engaged in a US trade or business, there you go. You don't have to report it. However, nonprofits, let's see, other organizations include trusts. Okay. I like it. I'm happy with that. And I don't want to file these anyways. I hate this. I don't file these myself. I mean, I file them all, IRS. If you're watching, I file every one of these. I file it every year. I just use a lot of companies. That's why you can't see them. And I pay offshore people, okay, who don't need it. And that's another question. 1099s, who is required to be paid? That's a great question. Do I have to file a 1099 when I pay an offshore contractor? This is a second question. But my answer is no, and we're going to find this too. Reportable payments to attorneys. So I have to skim through this. I don't have the answers right here. You can cut this out, Danny. Exceptions. Some payments do not have to be reported, although they may be taxable to the recipient. Payments are not required in the following: payments to a corporation, including an LLC that's treated as a corporation, payments for merchandise, payments of rent to real estate managers, wages paid to employees. So this is a separate form, but it's very similar. That MISC or NEC. The MISC is for like random payments to companies. The NEC is the new form for non-employee compensation. So this is kind of refreshing what it is. You report this when you paid $600 to services performed for someone who's not your employee, and payments to an attorney. I'm not your attorney. I don't want one of these. Okay, and this is trade or business reporting only. So you only have to report the 1099 NEC when payments are made over the course of your trade or business. Yeah, it doesn't mention here of. Doesn't mention it here. It's just not even covered in the instructions. Self-employment tax recipients pay non-employee compensation. Those are a bunch of examples. Blah blah blah. Okay, so that's interesting. Whatever. See if we get something good in here. I'm sorry, guys. I'm just going to you. Yeah. This is not from the IRS. Yeah, this is what I agree with them, but this is not a source. I want to see. I want the IRS to tell me that I can do that. That's the rule. If someone to cite a law. Okay, there you go. Non-resident, non-employee compensation paid on residents reported on 1042. When it's subject to withholding. If it's not subject to withholding, you don't report it anywhere. That's kind of doesn't really help. Helps a little bit, but for the people who give me a really hard time, it might not help. And for Danny who's figuring out what to do with this video also might not help. Let's go back to over here. It was 957. No, I don't think I think I'm good with the answer. I don't think we have to report it. I don't care. The 1099K is something I want to talk about. I guess the answer is, when do you get a 1099K and what does it actually mean? The 1099K is a form that goes to the IRS from payment processors, and they tell the IRS how much they processed on behalf of your company. The totals, the reported requirements has changed from exceeding 20 to exceeding 600. So if you're using Stripe or PayPal, they are going to tell the IRS how much you sold. Doesn't mean you have to pay tax on it. It doesn't mean there's a problem with it or anything. It just means that you don't have to, the IRS is going to know how much you sold. And they've asked clients of mine before, why didn't you pay taxes? And I answered and they accepted it. So we moved on from there. Let's get back to the questions here. I could just talk about this all day. I think there was one follow-up question from Marcel chat. So this question. If my wife has an LLC and my LLC buys services from her LLC, is this considered a related party transaction? The answer is yes. Your wife is a related party. And the Internal Revenue Code, sections 267 and 318. Section 267. Let's start there. Damn it, I was wrong. Let's say 318 is the one. I try and sound smart, but I'm checking myself and I'm already doing it wrong. Constructive ownership of stock, there's one. Members of family, your wife is considered to own the stuff you own. So it's considered a related party. And children, grandchildren, and parents. There's the other code section was there's two ways to consider it. It was the constructive ownership. Who's that? I really thought it was 267. It's 318. I remember that one. Whatever. So constructive ownership of stock is a related party thing. So yes, the answer is yes, your wife is a related party and you have to report that. How do I keep record of my reportable transactions when filing the 5472 form? Like, it's an Excel sheet, spreadsheet enough. So what we can typically do with our clients is we will just pull all bank transactions and sort them and go through them and find which are related and then sum them up and then fill out the forms using that information. So yes, the IRS works off of bank transactions. That's how they audit and how they review things. So if you have your transactions from your bank account in Excel and organized, then that's great for related party transactions. If they're not organized like that, then there's a box part 6 or something where you can check and then disclose that on the form. No one does that though. And as a segue to this, what are expenses accepted by the IRS? So I consider to include those to my LLC. Well, on a form 5472 filing, you actually aren't including your income or expenses. So the IRS isn't even reviewing what your expenses are. You don't even have to send it to the IRS in this circumstance. In a general context of a U.S. taxpayer, only expenses in conduct with a trade or business, only real business expenses are deductible, and some are limited. Like if you go out to dinner with someone, they say that only 50% of it's deductible. In the past, they change it all the time, and only if you're actually conducting business, because they say you have to eat anyways. So that's that. And I guess a follow-up to this is, do I need to put there the expenses I do with the card or only transfers to your personal account? You need to include related party transactions. So if you used your card to pay for a pair of shoes from your company in Austria that sells shoes, then that would be a related party transaction. If you transfer money to a related account of yours, then that's a related party transaction. I'm Indian and I have US LLC. My supplier and customers are both in the US. I sell on Shopify. Do I need to pay USA taxes? Great question. So if you sell on Shopify, you definitely need to consider potentially paying sales taxes. You need to look at the structure of your agreement. This is a great question because I have clients whose agreements with their suppliers are that they're basically a marketing service where you are just fulfilling, like you're basically getting sales for your client, and they're just fulfilling everything for you. You're not doing anything except for finding the customers. So if it comes through as like a marketing service and the people are charging you the sales tax, and when you buy the stuff, only when you process it, then you wouldn't even have to deal with sales taxes if the supplier is paying them. So you need to see if you're buying in bulk, then you probably would want to get resale certificates and then fulfill it yourself. But if the supplier is doing the fulfillment as well, you might not need to do anything. It really depends on your specific circumstances. And this is only regarding the sales taxes, because you're selling on Shopify, you're responsible for all your sales tax compliance and reporting. So, I mean, that's my answer. If you're selling on Amazon or another platform, then then they'll do it for you. and you need to make sure that you're not being charged sales taxes by your supplier. But in this instance, you need to review your agreement. You need to see if the supplier is charging you sales taxes, and if they are, you shouldn't charge sales taxes. And if they are, or you should consider giving them a resale certificate, and then you charge if you're buying in bulk. So there's a number of answers depending on your specific circumstances. Because I do have clients that basically just do the marketing, and then the supplier is fulfilling the orders as well, and they don't do any of the sales taxes. They just get their commission. As a non-US alien, getting royalties from Amazon for 2 years and 30% withheld is their way of getting it back. So I've actually done this successfully. When you are selling books or some kind of copyrighted material, I guess music potentially, on Amazon, Amazon withholds 30% automatically because they consider it royalties. What I did, and I'll tell you the answer now, is that I filed tax returns electing to treat the royalties as effectively connected with the US trade or business, so that I don't remember the exact wording, but so that we could get taxed at the marginal rates instead of a flat 30%. Because the rates go up to 37%, but they start at a much lower percentage. The rates started at 0 up to 37. So for most people, you're going to get a refund, and you can potentially include expenses in this operation as well. So it's generally going to get you money back. We filed tax returns, and just I explained it in the statements, and it took a year, but we got checks in the mail, and it worked out for the client. He paid me when he got his checks. And but yeah, we got it back. So is there a way? There is a way to get it back. You file a tax return, explain why you should get it back, and then they send you a check if they agree with you. The agent that we got agreed with us. There's also Amazon MBA, print on demand service of Amazon. Technically, does that count as having inventory? I don't know. That's great. I do have clients that do this. I think Amazon handles it all. I think you're just marketing. You're basically providing a marketing service. So you are finding a design, you're getting a design together, you're getting sales pages, and then you're just basically Nicholas, and you just basically selling. It's just like the other stuff. You're basically marketing something. So I don't think it counts as having inventory in the US, especially because Amazon, they're just making it. One last one in English, even though I think Marcel speaks Spanish. If I buy one BTC, is it an asset for the LLC or is it an expense? It depends. If you buy a BTC, it's an asset, and if you send the BTC for services, then it becomes an expense. But if you just hold it and you still have it, it's an asset. If when you sell it or dispose of it, you have to calculate the gain or loss on the change in value from the time you bought it to the time you sent it. To do cryptocurrency accounting right with an active business is very complicated, but it is possible. It just can be complicated.